My girlfriend lost it in front of a room full of people. She shouted that I'd never be a good husband and flat out said she wasn't going to marry me. I didn't argue or raise my voice. I just stood there for a second, looked at her, and then walked away. Later that night, her friend sent me a message that changed everything. Do you even know what happened after you left? I'm 29 years old, and up until about 3 weeks ago, I honestly thought I had my life pretty well figured out. I'd been with Emily for close to 4 years. We met at a mutual friend's birthday party, clicked almost instantly, and before I knew it, 6 months later, we were living under the same roof. She worked as a paralegal at a mid-sized law firm downtown, and I was in logistics management. We weren't rolling in money, but we paid our bills, took small trips, and lived comfortably enough. Marriage was something we talked about seriously. Last Christmas, we even went ring shopping together. I remember her stopping at a jewelry store in the mall and pointing out this classy sapphire ring she loved. She didn't know that 2 days later, I went back on my own to ask about payment plans and financing. I was already planning a future with her. The night everything fell apart was supposed to be a happy one. My cousin Daniel was hosting an engagement party at his house. He lived in a nice suburban neighborhood, the kind with trimmed hedges and professionally landscaped lawns. There were probably around 40 people there, friends and family, filling the house and yard. Looking back, Emily had been acting off all week. She was distant, short-tempered, snapping at little things. At the time, I chalked it up to stress from work. She'd told me her boss was riding her hard over some case deadlines, and she'd stayed late at the office 3 or 4 nights that week. One night, I even offered to bring her dinner, but she said no and told me she'd just grab something from the deli downstairs. We got to Daniel's place around 7. The party was already going strong. Music was blasting from speakers outside, and people were scattered around the patio and living room, laughing and talking in groups. I was standing near the kitchen island with Daniel and a few friends when Emily walked up holding a drink. Her cheeks were flushed, and it was obvious she'd already had a few glasses of wine. "Can we talk?" she said. But she didn't lower her voice at all. It was loud enough that Daniel stopped talking and looked right at her. "Yeah, sure. What's going on?" I said, keeping my tone calm, trying to steer things back to something normal. "I'm serious," she snapped. "We need to talk about us." I glanced around and noticed people starting to pay attention. Daniel's fiancée, Laura, was watching from across the room, her face tight with concern. "Okay," I said quietly. "Let's step outside." "No," Emily interrupted, her voice getting louder. "I'm done pretending." That's when my stomach dropped. "You know what?" she continued. "I don't think this is going to work." The music suddenly felt way too loud, like it was pressing in on me. "Emily, this isn't the place for this," I said. She didn't hesitate. "You could never be a good husband. I'm not going to marry you." The room went dead silent. Every single person was staring at us. I felt my face burn, my hands tightening without me meaning to, but I forced myself to stay still. I just looked at her, trying to figure out if she was drunk or if she actually meant every word. Her eyes were cold, almost cruel, like she was daring me to react. I didn't even recognize her anymore. I didn't say anything. I turned around, grabbed my jacket from the chair by the door, and walked straight out of the house. As I left, I heard someone whisper, "What just happened?" Then the room filled with low murmurs, hushed and gossipy. The drive home was completely silent. No music, no phone calls. Just the sound of the engine and my own breathing. My hands were shaking on the steering wheel the entire way. When I got back to our apartment, I didn't turn on any lights. I sat down on the couch and stayed there for almost an hour, staring at nothing. The streetlight outside threw long shadows across the wall. I replayed the scene over and over in my head, trying to figure out what I'd missed, where I'd screwed up, how everything could have gone so wrong so fast. Then my phone buzzed. It was a text from Megan, one of Emily's closest friends from college. "Do you even know what happened after you left?" I stared at the screen for a full minute before replying with a single word. "What?" The typing dots popped up right away. "Can I call you?" "Yeah," I typed back. My phone rang almost immediately. "Hey," Megan said. Her voice sounded tight, like she'd either been crying or was about to. "I don't even know how to say this, but you need to hear it." She told me that after I left, Emily completely fell apart. She started crying, saying she didn't mean what she said and that she was just scared. Then Megan paused. "But that's not even the worst part." "What's worse?" I asked. My own voice sounded hollow. Megan hesitated. I could hear party noise behind her. People talking, glasses clinking. Daniel's brother Ethan was there. You know Ethan, right? I did. Ethan was Daniel's younger brother, about 26, worked in finance, always dressed a little too sharp, and talked nonstop about his investments and workout routine. Yeah, I said. I know him. She's been seeing him for at least 2 months. It felt like the floor dropped out from under me. The room spun. What? I said. I didn't know until tonight, Megan rushed to say. I swear. After you left, Ethan went over to her, put his arm around her, and she leaned into him like it was completely natural. Not like friends. Like a couple. Megan said she overheard him whisper, "You said you were going to end it clean. This wasn't the plan." That's when it clicked for me, she said. I confronted her in the bathroom about 20 minutes ago. She admitted everything. I couldn't speak. My brain was trying to catch up, but the words didn't feel real, like I was watching a bad movie. Megan kept talking, filling the silence. She said Emily told her it started back in September at a work event Ethan happened to be at. They ran into each other, talked, and then, according to Emily, it just happened. Like it was some accident. But 2 months isn't an accident. That's a decision, made again and again. Is she still there? I finally asked. Yeah, Megan said. She's acting like she's the victim. A few people are comforting her, but honestly, most people look uncomfortable. Laura's furious. I think she wants Emily gone. Thanks for telling me, I said, my voice cracking at the end. What are you going to do? Megan asked. I don't know, I said honestly. We hung up, and I sat there in the dark for another hour. Then something shifted. For the first time all night, my head cleared. I opened my laptop and logged into our shared bank account, the one we'd set up 2 years earlier for rent and utilities. We both deposited a set amount every month. It was supposed to make life easier. I started scrolling through our bank transactions from the last few months. At first, nothing jumped out. Rent was there. Electric, internet, groceries, all the usual stuff. Then I noticed a charge I didn't recognize. A restaurant called Provisions, some upscale place downtown I'd never set foot in. One charge was $180 from about 2 months back. Then another one popped up 3 weeks later for $210. After that, I saw a hotel charge from 4 weeks ago. $340 at a boutique hotel about 15 minutes from our apartment. That was the same weekend Emily had told me she was at a work conference in Chicago. My stomach twisted. I took screenshots of everything that didn't add up. Every suspicious charge, every date that lined up a little too well. When I was done, there were 11 transactions total. Update 1. I didn't sleep that night. There was no way I could. I sat on the couch with my laptop open, staring at the screen, replaying every lie she'd ever told me. I'm working late. Every weekend, she said she was too tired to do anything. Every dumb argument she'd picked over nothing, which now made sense. She'd probably been carrying guilt and looking for an excuse. Around 6 in the morning, I heard the front door open. Emily came in quietly, moving like she hoped I'd still be asleep. She was wearing the same dress from the party, and she looked completely worn down. Her makeup was smeared under her eyes, and her hair was a mess. I was sitting at the kitchen table with my laptop open in front of me and a cup of coffee that had gone cold a long time ago. She stopped dead when she saw me. We need to talk, I said. She dropped her purse on the counter and crossed her arms, already on the defensive. I know I screwed up last night, she started. I was drunk, and I didn't mean. How long have you been sleeping with Ethan? I asked. Her face went white instantly, like all the blood drained out of it. What? She said. Don't lie to me, I said. Megan told me, and I found the bank statements. I turned the laptop toward her so she could see the highlighted charges on the screen. She stared at them for a long time, her mouth opening and closing like she wanted to explain, but didn't know how. Then her shoulders slumped. It just happened, she said quietly. It wasn't planned. 2 months doesn't just happen, I said. 2 months is a relationship. 2 months is a choice you made every single day. I was confused, she said, her voice breaking. We've been together so long. I started wondering if this was really what I wanted. Everything felt so routine. Ethan made me feel, I don't know, excited again. Like things weren't so predictable. I felt the anger finally rise up, sharp and burning in my chest. So you humiliated me in front of 40 people because you were bored? That's not fair, she said quickly. No, I snapped. What's not fair is that I spent 4 years building a life with someone who was shopping for upgrades behind my back. What's not fair is that I was looking into financing an engagement ring while you were using our shared money to pay for hotel rooms with my cousin's brother. That's when she started crying. Big, shaking sobs. But it didn't move me. The tears felt calculated, like another tool. I'm sorry, she said. I really am. I made a mistake. Can we just talk about this? Can we try to work through it? There's nothing to work through, I said. I want you out of the apartment by the end of the week. Her head snapped up. This is my place too. The lease is in my name, I said calmly. You moved in after I'd already been here a year. Check the paperwork if you don't believe me. She stared at me like I'd just slapped her. You're really going to throw me out? You threw us away the second you got into bed with Ethan, I said. I'm just making it official. She walked out of the kitchen without another word. A second later, I heard the bedroom door slam. Then I heard her crying through the wall. I didn't feel bad. Update 2. Emily moved out 4 days later. She tried to take furniture I'd bought before we even met. The coffee table, a bookshelf, even my good blender. But I had the receipts saved on my computer, and once I showed her, she backed off. The whole thing felt cold and businesslike. We barely spoke unless it was about logistics. I'm taking the dishes. My mom gave those to us. Fine. That kind of conversation. Her parents showed up Saturday morning with a U-Haul. Her dad wouldn't even look at me. Her mom gave me this pitying stare, like I was the one who'd screwed everything up. I didn't bother explaining myself. Ethan tried to reach out, though. 2 days after Emily moved out, he sent me a long text message. 5 paragraphs of apologies. He said he never meant for things to go this far, and that he respected me too much to want this to damage my relationship with Daniel. It was full of lines like I take full responsibility, and I hope we can move past this someday. I didn't reply. I deleted the message and blocked his number. 2 days after that, Daniel called me. I heard what happened, he said. Ethan told me his side, but I wanted to hear yours. So I told him everything. The public blow-up, the affair, the bank statements, the hotel charges, all of it. He listened without interrupting. When I finished, he was quiet for a long time. I'm sorry, man, he finally said. I had no idea. Ethan's my brother, but what he did is seriously messed up. I'm not making excuses for him. I appreciate that, I said. For what it's worth, Daniel continued. Laura already uninvited Emily from the wedding. She was supposed to be a bridesmaid. And Ethan's not in the wedding party anymore either. Laura wanted him completely uninvited, but he's still my brother. He can come to the ceremony, and that's it. No reception. It gave me a small sense of satisfaction, but it didn't fix anything. Nothing really could. Update 3. About 2 weeks after Emily moved out, she messaged me on Instagram. It was long and all over the place. She said she'd made the biggest mistake of her life and wanted to meet up to talk. She claimed Ethan wasn't who she thought he was, and that she realized I was the one she actually wanted. She said she'd been impulsive and foolish, and that what we had was real. I didn't even open the message all the way. I blocked her on Instagram, Facebook, and her email, just to be safe. But here's where things get interesting. A few days ago, a mutual friend of ours, Chris, reached out and told me the real reason Emily was trying to come back. Apparently, Ethan had been seeing someone else the entire time he was involved with Emily. A woman from his office named Olivia. When Emily found out, she saw the texts on his phone. When Emily finally confronted Ethan, he didn't even try to soften it. He told her flat out that she was never anything serious to him. According to him, it was just a fling, something fun on the side, and nothing more. He made it clear that Olivia was his real girlfriend and always had been. That crushed her. Chris told me she showed up at his apartment around 10 o'clock that night, completely falling apart. She was crying, pacing around, asking him what she was supposed to do now that everything had blown up in her face. And then, somehow, things got even worse. That same week, Emily lost her job. Apparently, she'd been coming in late over and over, missing deadlines, and generally dropping the ball. It all came to a head when she got into a full-on screaming match with her boss over a filing error. From what Chris heard, her boss had been cutting her slack for weeks, but that argument was the final straw. After that, she started calling mutual friends, trying to get someone, anyone, to convince me to take her back. No one stepped in. A couple of people told her straight to her face that what she'd done was unforgivable. Final update. It's been 3 weeks since that night at Daniel's party. I'm still processing everything. But if I'm being honest, I feel lighter. The apartment is quieter now, sure, but it finally feels like mine again. I rearranged the furniture, tossed anything that reminded me of her, threw out old photos, donated some of the books she left behind, and even bought new sheets for the bed. I've started going to the gym in the mornings before work. I'm reading more, too. Small changes, but they make me feel like I'm taking my life back one piece at a time. Daniel and I are still close. His wedding is coming up in 2 months, and I'm still invited. I'm even back in the wedding party as a groomsman. Ethan won't be at the reception. Daniel didn't budge on that. From what I've heard, Ethan and Emily tried to make things work for about a week after she found out about Olivia, but it fell apart fast. Ethan blocked her number, and at one point she showed up at his apartment. He threatened to call the cops if she didn't leave. The last update I got was that Emily moved back in with her parents, about an hour outside the city. She's unemployed and apparently spending most of her time in her childhood bedroom. Megan told me she's been posting vague, sad quotes on social media, the kind that are obviously about me but never mention my name. I haven't heard from Emily directly since I blocked her everywhere. Megan checks in on me from time to time, which I appreciate. She feels bad for not realizing what was going on sooner, but I've told her more than once that it wasn't her fault. Emily was careful. She covered her tracks. If Megan had known, she would have told me. I'm not dating anyone right now. I'm not ready for that yet. But I'm also not bitter. Mostly, I just feel relieved. Relieved I found out before I married her. Relieved I didn't waste another 4 years. Relieved I never proposed with that sapphire ring and discovered all of this after a year of marriage. Relieved I walked away when I did, with my dignity still intact. Sometimes I think back to that moment at the party when she yelled at me in front of everyone. At the time, it felt like the worst night of my life. Now I see it differently. It was a gift. She showed me exactly who she was, and I got out before I was legally or financially tied to her forever. Edit 1. A few people asked if I ever confronted Ethan directly. I didn't. He's not worth my energy, and anything I said would have been more about my ego than anything else. The way I see it, he has to live with being the kind of person who does that. That's punishment enough. Edit 2. Someone messaged me asking if Emily ever gave me a real apology beyond that Instagram message. No, that message wasn't an apology. It was her trying to come back after her backup plan fell apart. That's not remorse. That's desperation. Edit 3. For everyone wondering about the ring, I never bought it. I was planning to propose this Christmas. Dodge that bullet.